The most important element in this ninja game is the player, the ninja, the one that we're going to control to avoid enemies and destroy some of the enemies and, well, just to survive as long as we possibly can. So let's make a very simple scene here. First of all, we want to make a floor for the player to stand on. So we're coming here in the hierarchy window in the game. We're going to right click, choose 3D object, and then we're going to choose cube. Okay, we're going to have a nice little cube here in the scene. Since we want to make this a floor, we're going to change its size. So we have to deal with this cube's scale. So I'm going to change X to 20, Y to something very thin like 0.1, and Z as 20. Okay, so we have a white floor. And we also change its position to be 0, 0, 0. So it's going to be in the middle of the world. Okay, this is exactly where we want it to be. Now, the other thing that we want to adjust for this is we want to give it a material. If we use this white color, it might be very hurtful to the eyes and, well, to be honest, very difficult to see things in here. So we're going to the materials folder we just created. We're going to right click, choose create, then we're going to choose material, and I'm going to name this simply floor. With that material here, if you look at the inspector, you have details about it. So we're going to change its color. And if you want to change the color changing in real time, we can drag this material and drop here in the floor in the scene window. Apparently nothing changed, but now if you go to the color picker and change to another color, well, it's going to update for us. So let's choose a tone of color like this one, like a sandy color. And we might want to adjust the smoothness of this floor, okay, because it might be too shiny. That's not what we want, so let's make it almost like it's not shiny. Okay, I think 0.5 is going to be a good value, okay, or maybe even less, so 0.2 might be better. Okay, so very simple, a very simple element. And now that we have this floor, we want to make our player. So to make the player, we're going to do something very similar, but the order that we're going to do things is going to be a bit different. When we are making a game in the beginning, we want to make sure that things are easy to change. Okay, this is part of prototyping. You start by coding, then you drag the final art, and you just drop the art here in Unity. And to keep things simple, we're going to right click in the hierarchy and just choose create empty. We made an empty game object. Just as a heads up, we're going to add a cube. Okay, our ninja is going to be a very simple cube. But while we don't do that, okay, while it's not turned into a cube, then we do a simple game object. I'm going to put it in the position 0, 1, 0. Okay, so it's going to be more or less in the center of the game. And inside the game object, I am going to right click, choose 3D object, and then cube. So why I do this? We do this because when we want to change the model for our ninja, we're going to simply replace this cube. So for example, hey, the ninja is now going to be a sphere. So I can just remove the cube, and inside this game object, I can add a sphere. So it changed its shape. Okay, so that's pretty much why we're doing these things. Now, I want you to select the cube. And we want to look at the inspector and remove this box collider because the cube itself, the mesh itself, is not going to be responsible for processing the collisions. So we're going to click here and choose remove component. And you're going to see that the cube no longer has that green outline. But we're going to the original game object, we're going to press add component, and we're going to add a box collider. Okay, so it's going to be still taking the same size as the cube, but we can change that to other sizes if we want later. Okay, so it can take more space or less space. Now with the game object selected, I'm going to name this player. It could be ninja, but to keep things consistent with other projects, let's just name this player, because of course it's the player. And another tip for you is, we can right click on the player, choose create empty, and we're going to rename this game object as container. Okay, or you might want to change that to model, whatever name you feel it's better. And we do this because later when we import the model in here, it's going to be easier for us to perform some rotations and some other adjustments to the model. So with this in mind, we're going to grab the cube and drop it inside the model. Okay, so right now there is not much difference between making a player or simply making a cube. Okay, we made three different elements inside the player, but be sure all of these things matter. They're going to make your work much easier than it would be. Okay, so now we have a very simple player model. It's right here. Okay, what we well, it's a very simple white cube, so we should add a color to it. I'm going to right click on the project, select create, and then I'm going to choose material. This is going to be player, and now we're going to choose another color for this player. So let's change, select a tone of blue, between blue and green, so it's going to contrast well with this floor. And I'm going to drag this material to the player. So this is how the player is going to look like, right? And to make the player to work, we have to write specific logic to it. We have box colliders, we have mesh, we set positions, but there's nothing specifically for controlling how the player works. So we're going to the scripts folder, and here we right click, choose create, and then C# script. And this is, of course, is going to be simply named player. After we do this, let's wait for the compilation to be finished, so the spinning wheel disappears, and now we're going to drag the player script in here. Okay, and if you double click that script, Mono is going to open, and it's going to show you the file that we're going to edit to make sure the player is going to behave. Okay, so we're going to apply movement to the player and, well, make everything work, right? So let's work on this movement in the next video.